Throughout their lives, our dogs and cats may require support for their specific health needs. Mobility, digestive, skin and coat, weight control. Introducing True Solutions from Blue Buffalo, the leader in natural nutrition. True Solutions is made with both clinically proven and natural ingredients. True Solutions. Support it in-store or online at your favorite pet specialty retailer.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Meade Insurance Agency, 504-556-0809 or davemeade.insagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
Cnc Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, Cnc provides patient-centered care for your entire family. Cnc Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports on this Chamber of Commerce Day here in New Orleans. It was beautiful out backdrop here. We're live from the Pontchartrain Production Studios. We got a great show for you. Happy Thanksgiving to one and all. Hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving holiday with, again, friends and family. Again, Juan Kincaid of Fox 8 Sports is with us. He's the sports director over at Fox 8. We'll talk Saints, we'll talk LSU, Tulane, all that on tap for us today on the program. And Juan, welcome back to the show. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Same to you. Thank you.
Juan, before we get started, a lot going on. Got the Saints on Thanksgiving Day. You've got a lot of programming going on. Tell us about all the great programming at Fox 8.
Well, you know, we have something every day, it seemes like, especially this week with everything kind of brought down to like no days in between. So really, of course, overtime on Tuesday night, game plan on Wednesday, obviously previewing the Saints and Bills this week, and we'll have an hour-and-a-half pregame show on Fox 8 on Thursday, leading up to the game, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. So, and then we usually have Black and Gold Review the day after the game, but that will be moved now to Monday. But we will still have our Fox 8 Football Friday show on Friday because it's a big week for high school football as well. So the train doesn't stop.
No.
Either you're on it or you're not.
That's right. And look, it's great to be busy, right?
It is.
I mean, it is. I mean, again,
it'd be better if our teams were winning. Well, yeah. But, you know, we'll take the good with the bad sometimes.
Exactly. We have been spoiled a bit. You and I remember the lean years, for sure.
Certainly do. They weren't that long ago, and it feels like we're going back to some of it.
There are some people now that are about to figure out what a lean year is.
Yes.
But we definitely remember. Well, again, Saints losing 40-29 to Philadelphia. Juan, first of all, when you look at all the injuries, and I'm not trying to make excuses for any type of, because that's part of the game, but I mean, it is difficult to be able to win in a situation where you lose as many top-line guys as the Saints were without on Sunday against Philadelphia. Their starting quarterback was gone, okay? Well, Kamara, running back. Left tackle, right tackle, left guard. Michael Thomas not available. Nickelback and You got two rotational defensive tackles that weren't available, including Passanio, who's played really well for them. Their first-round pick defensive end, and of course the problem's at kicker. I mean, that's an awful lot of positions with starters to lose. Bookend tackles, guards. I mean, you're looking at, in some cases, Pro Bowl players, all-pro players. That was going to be difficult to be able to go into the link and win. My biggest disappointment is in the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely.
You had a chance you saw last year what they did. And you've had a year to figure out how I'm going to stop Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia running game. And it didn't look any different than it did last year.
Well, you say you had a year, but you really didn't, Eric, because you've got other games to play and to prepare for. True. And one of the hardest things to do in this league, and every team will tell you it's difficult, is to prepare for a quarterback that can run as well as Jalen Hurts does, and you have less than a week to do so. You really only have about 4 days to work on it. So while we can sit here and say from one year to the next they were just as bad, they were, but they didn't have that whole year to work on it, because you got to prepare for the other games on your schedule, because again, it's just 1 in 17 on the schedule. So, but you were talking about all the things they're missing right now. For me, again, the disappointment in that game was the defense.
Yes.
Because I don't care if you're missing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you've still got that entire defense together.
That's right.
And that's the effort they put forth there. And it's disappointing. And some guys looked really slow, showed their age. Malcolm Jenkins didn't play well. Cam Jordan didn't play well. The defensive front didn't play well. They didn't do a very good job stopping Hurts. They didn't do a good job stopping the running game at all in general. And I'd like to think it's a one-off, because they've been really good at stopping the run all year long. But this is the first time they faced a team like Philadelphia and having a quarterback like Hurts who can do so much. And so then the question is, well, do you spy him? Or do you not? Well, I don't know if you can afford to do that, because the margin for error for this team is so slim on both sides of the ball, I believe, and it has to be led by the defense. And so I just think that, Philly has their number. And you hope this is not a team you meet in the playoffs if you make the playoffs.
Right. Well, and my point was schematically, having a scheme to be able to shut that down.
Well, I think they did. It just didn't work.
Right.
I mean, you can draw up schemes all day that you want all day long, but the players have to execute that scheme to perfection to win the football game. And if they don't play up to the level they need to, you're not going to win the game. I don't care what scheme you got in the game. So I think they prepared well for it, but they just didn't play well. And they didn't play. They played particularly bad on that side of the ball. And we can sit here and talk about Trevor Siemian, who did not have a great game, but I don't think he's been their problem offensively the last 3 weeks. He struggled in that game against Philly, gave him some easy turnovers there. But this team has issues. And again, we talk about the margin for error. It's very slim on the offensive side of the ball, especially because you are missing Alvin Kamara, you are missing Michael Thomas. You've got an unproven receiving core there now that you're looking for a number one, and most of those guys are number threes, to be honest with you, on any other team. So the best thing you have going on offense right now is running back Mark Ingram. He is the best thing you have going, and who would have said that at the beginning of the year when he was playing somewhere else? So you've got to figure it out. And for the first time ever, Sean Payton's in a situation he's never been in, and he's having trouble figuring out how to get out of it.
The 3 turnovers were devastating when you're in a situation that you're playing from behind, which is, again, something they've been doing quite often with Trevor Siemian. You can't throw 2 picks. You can't have a pick 6. Obviously, the Ingram fumble was huge as well. But with your backs against the wall with all the injuries, you can't add 3 turnovers to the mix on that.
Well, the third turnover, the pick 6, was the biggest one. They made it 27-7, and that was the one that kind of put the nail in, because you were still within shouting distance. You were down 20-7, and the game was still pretty much open for anyone to get. But that one just kind of, you felt the air go out of the building. If you're a Saints fan, you're like, okay, they're not going to come back from this. And even though they put together a valiant effort in the second half, it was still the same old. Slow start, decent in the middle and towards the end, but still not quite enough to get over the hump. And there you are.
But that's also, again, a little bit of fool's gold, because it's a byproduct of how defenses start to play them. Again, when a lot of people they look at Siemian and say, well, he's bringing them back. Well, early in the game, teams are playing straight up, again, man-to-man, bump and run coverage, not allowing these receivers to be able to get the separation to catch the football. Once they get a lead, then they're kind of laying back on that lead. They'll go to more of a zone coverage. There are openings within the zone, and again, you see, again, Siemian bringing them back and putting points on the board. But when you're playing them straight up and teams tighten up on them, they're not having that success.
Well, Siemian admitted that. He said, you know what, the reason why we're able to come back in the second half, because teams are playing shell. And our guys can go up and make the turn there wide open. But again, it goes back to what you have on the offensive side of the ball to utilize. All your receivers, there's not a number one receiver in that group. They're debatable number twos in that group.
Right.
And when you're depending on Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, Deontay Harris has been good this year, but he's not a number one receiver. You know, you're depending on those guys to be able to beat bump and run coverage. You're going to struggle every time because they're not those are not the kind of receivers that they are right now.
No doubt.
A lot of them are still young in the game.
And then on the defensive side, to get a ball run down your throat like they did, 50 attempts. I mean, 50 attempts, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns. Those 3 touchdowns by Jalen Hurts. He ran the ball 18 times. And the inability, again, to be able to put up a stand to stop the run. Last year, we looked to Malcolm Brown as not being in the game, which is the reason why. This was a collective effort in terms of, again, not being able to stop the run.
246 yards last year allowed, 242
this year, right.
I believe this year allowed, and it was the same formula. And the Philadelphia did to the Saints what Sean Payton would never do to another team. They found the weak link in running the ball, and they stuck with it. Sean Payton would have abandoned that and went to want to throw the ball because that's just the kind of coach he is, different coaching styles. But Philly knows the recipe for success against the Saints defense, and it was interesting, their head coach in the locker room after the game, he told his players, we just ran for 242 yards against the one-time number one rushing defense in the NFL.
Right.
The one time.
Right.
Made it a point to look, if we play the way we're supposed to play, we're going to win a football game. And that's what they did against the Saints. They just took advantage of where they saw the advantage.
But again, this has been a season of a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. From again, the playing down the competition, which we've seen, the costly turnovers, the penalties, the bust on defense and offense, the drops by wide receivers, and oh, by the way, the carousel of kickers who can't make an extra point.
Crazy.
I mean, it's just the errors on top of the small margin of error you had coming into the season. You compound that now with the injuries, and these errors have put them in the situation they're in right now.
Well, pick it up where you ended off there. You're talking about the small margin error you had coming into the season.
Right.
So having said that, when you look back on it, were they really playing down to the Giants and the Falcons, or were they just showing who they really are because they lack a lot of talent?
But they were healthy when they played those teams.
Yeah, but they weren't that good of a team. You still don't have a number one receiver. You're still trying to figure out the receiver position. You got Alvin Kamara playing back there, but you don't have a really competent, a very good backup behind him. You're having to depend on him. You can't throw the ball down the field. Your quarterback is still trying to find his way. And granted, Jameis, we miss him now because of what he did, but he still wasn't great. He was good enough, didn't make any mistakes.
He managed the game.
He managed the game. But if you look at the team as a whole, it's not a very good football team. It's not a great football team. They're good on certain days, but when you have to rely on your defense to be excellent every week, because your offense isn't going to be there, or isn't quite there, then you're going to get what you're going to get. You're going to lose to Atlanta, who can get hot. You're going to lose to the Giants, who can take advantage of a late opportunity. I think we all have been so spoiled over the years of having Drew Brees and always being in the game, no matter how far down you are, being into the game. And I remember fans coming up to me saying, they need to get rid of Drew Brees. I'm like, you know what? Watch what you say, because there are reasons why there's teams in the NFL, the Lions, I mean, the list is long, Jacksonville, why they don't make the playoffs. And it all comes back to quarterback play. And if you don't have one, you're not going to make the playoffs. I don't care how good your defense is. And so we're finding out this year what it meant to have Drew Brees and always have an opportunity to have a chance in the game, every game you play. I want to go back to, again, the Carolina, Falcon, and Giants loss, because I'm of the opinion they were healthy then, and again, they were a better team than all three of them, but they just didn't show up on those 3 games, and it put them in a situation where they're in now. And again, this is why, again, I've said all along that you only get 17 shots. You have to be ready each and every Sunday. Look, it's hard. They're going to be. We saw this past week in all the upsets, right? Okay, so that happens. But there's also, again, the attrition of the NFL. As you get deeper in the season, most teams, again, you have to be able to tap into your depth because of injuries. When they played those teams, they were fairly healthy, and again, should have beat each and every one of them. And now it kind of comes back to bite them, because now they got a tougher schedule down the stretch here. They got the unknown at quarterback in terms of, again, who is going to be, whether it's going to be Taysom or Simeon moving forward. And again, you're dealing with, again, a boatload of injuries to key players that, again, you just don't come back from. You don't come back from losing both of your starting tackles. No, it's tough. It's tough. I will say this: over the years, the one area that the Saints have seemed to gotten right, whether it be in the draft or free agency, is having depth on the offensive line. And I think the offensive line has played well enough to win football games, even when you were missing.
Yeah, but you can't throw Landon Young out there.
No, you can't. No. But I still think they played. They played well enough on the offensive line to win in Philadelphia. They just had the turnovers, and I don't think those turnovers were on the offensive line. They're not knocking the ball out of Ingram's hands. They're not throwing 2 bad passes by Trevor Siemian. That's not on the offensive line. He had the protection. They were able to run the ball with Mark Ingram pretty well. Yes. I just think that, I think the injuries and the lack of talent is catching up with the football team. And I think that Taysom should have been given more of an opportunity at quarterback than he has been so far. And my opinion is, and I think every player would say, if I'm in a uniform, I'm healthy enough to play. Right. And so, but obviously there's something going on there where he's not getting an opportunity to play. I mean, don't you think it's the injury? I mean, look, at this point, you saw him. No, I do not. You do not? No, I do not. And I'll tell you why, because when that new contract he just signed tells me a lot. Tells me a lot. Tells me that it's more than is he injured or not. Because he was in uniform, he was on an earpiece, and talking to Deuce yesterday about this, he pointed out something. He said, Juan, he was on the earpiece, but he was like 30 yards from Peyton. So that tells me there's something going on between those two. Because when Peyton addressed at the end of the game, all he would say was, "We were happy to have him up to where we were, we had him." We're almost lucky to have him at that position as the emergency quarterback. Which would make you think that it's an injury, but when he's not even standing next to his coach on the sideline, listening to the plays being called in, that tells me there's something more going on there. And then we find out yesterday that he gets a new 4-year contract extension, keep him here longer. I don't know. Again, I go back to, if the guy's dressing out, he should be able to play. Otherwise, he's taking an important spot on the roster from someone else on a Saints team that needs as many healthy bodies on the field as possible. I'll take the opposite tack on that. Okay. Would you be willing, as of Sean Payton, with again Trevor Siemian maybe going down, of putting an Ian Book in there? Yes, because I think eventually you have to make it. If it comes down to, if Taysom Hill is not healthy enough to play, then why are you dressing him out? Because if it's a health issue, if it's related to his concussion, you don't want him playing. Well, they listed it as a foot injury last week. Foot injury, concussion, whatever it is. You don't want him playing at all. Get him healthy. And give Ian Book an opportunity. I know that Taysom gives him the best chance to win right now, I think, because he's the most dangerous quarterback of all 3 of them. Well, especially with the wide receiver situation. I've been talking about this a while now. Again, we got wide receivers that have the inability to get open. So by having a running quarterback, and I'm not talking about the Taysom doing his best impression of Drew Brees. I'm talking about Taysom doing his best impression of Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. 1-2 reads and run. Because you're going to put pressure on the defense at that point. They're going to have to play more of a zone concept because they have to keep their eyes on what's going on in that offensive backfield. And that's going to allow these receivers who can't get open man-to-man to be able to find those pockets within the zone. And then, of course, the pressure that is put on by a mobile quarterback to be able to get the ball out, well, again, whether it's via the pass or, again, via the run. I think the concussion held him back. I'm not sure what happened with the foot injury, but I expect him to play this week. And I expect, again, I'm not saying that Trevor's done a bad job. I'm just saying he's a guy that can manage the game, and ultimately they need a spark. They need somebody that can spark this offense. They can give them another weapon. That's the thing. They need a spark, basically. They need someone that when defenses look across the line, they see a guy that can threaten them with more than just throwing the ball. Because in Trevor Siemian, you know what you're going to get. He's accurate throwing the ball. Except for the pick six, he's done a good job with his placement and everything. Guys have dropped balls. That was just a bad pass. He doesn't have the strongest arm. His arm reminds me of Drew Brees, but his accuracy is there. But you know that if guys aren't getting open, he's not taking off running with the ball. Because, and I'm not saying he can't, because he ran a touchdown against the Eagles. He can run. He's just not looking to run the ball and get positive plays. In Taysom, you have a guy that more times than not at quarterback is going to get a positive play, whether it be throwing the ball or taking off and running it for 3, 4, 5 yards, whatever. We've seen Jameis Winston play since Florida State. He's not a running quarterback. But again, in his last 2 games before he got injured, he became a running quarterback. And the reason why is guys weren't getting open. First few games, he was sitting in the pocket, trying to wait till guys got open, and then ultimately, again, was taking sacks and throwing the ball away. It got to the point where he realizes, I've got to make something positive happen here. So he started running the football, and it exposed him to an injury. Trevor Siemian, again, you saw that one run for a touchdown. Reason why it was is the defense was surprised he even left the pocket. With Taysom,
it's a total different situation. And it'll be interesting to see if they go with that offense from this point forward. I think he's got to. Whether Kamara's back or not, I think he has to.
I think he has to change things up because what's status quo is not working.
Not working at all.
3 games in a row, 3 straight losses.
Falling behind.
Losing in the same situation.
Right.
And, it's interesting, Eric, when we asked Sean Payton twice, Sunday after the game, Monday morning, what do you see as the problem with why this team gets off to the slow start? His answers were the same. Basically, I'm not sure.
Right.
Trevor Siemian's answer on Sunday was, we have motivation, we're amped up, we're ready to go, it's just not happening in the game. So there's no answers in the building right now.
Well, I know what the answer is. The answer is, again, you're not good enough at certain positions, especially at the wide receiver position.
Yeah,
haven't
been good enough.
And as pass catchers. Now, Troutman had a great game this past week and looked like he was kind of coming out of his shell, but now he's out 4 to 6 weeks with the MCL injury.
Yeah.
So, again, that's a setback. Vanette is not a pass-catching tight end. But again, he's going to have to become one.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. But let's talk about Taysom's new deal, because that's interesting. Look, first of all, and Sean put this out, Sean put this out, Fox 8 Sports yesterday, as soon as the contract was announced, and it made a lot of sense. $8.9 million in dead money.
Yeah.
Right now, the Saints are at $12 million in dead money for next year. $11 million of that is Drew Brees' contract. You have $13 million in dead money for Teron Armstead if he is not re-signed. If there is a move on Cam Jordan, that's another $23 million in dead money. So again, they're probably looking at trying to be able to get some of that dead money back right now before they get into the season. 4-year extension, $40 million for 4 seasons, $22.5 million guaranteed. It could balloon to $95 million if Hill becomes a starting quarterback. He was on a 1-year deal this year, again with $8.9 million dead money that was attached to next year's cap. Your thoughts on this deal?
Well, I think it's a smart move by the Saints because you know about the money issues you're going to have coming up down the line, and you've got to figure out a way to keep your best players by also making it affordable for yourself, and also making it a good deal for the player as well. And so they will get some money coming off the cap here. It won't be as big of a hit and stretched out over some years. And again, that $95 million, a carrot that's dangling out there if he gets to play quarterback and if he meets certain incentives.
Right.
And for the most part, when you look at NFL contracts signed this year, the majority of them, to get that big number, a lot of it is incentive.
Absolutely.
If you got to meet the incentives. So
really it's about a $10 million a year deal, okay, to be the jack of all trades, and then ultimately it will balloon and if he becomes a starting quarterback.
It adds more money as he does more things in the offense from a quarterback situation. So I think it's a win-win for the Saints. He's still a young player. Relatively young player in the league, and he's still productive.
Right.
But man, I kind of stick by my guns, and I've been saying it for the last couple of years. I just don't think he'll be a starting quarterback in this league full time because of all the things he brings to this football team. If you take him off, and we saw it last week, when he's not playing, that's a huge weapon out of this offense, and they don't have anybody to fill it.
Right. Well, let me say this, Juan. If he can't get it done this year, he's never going to get it done. If he can't start and be effective from this point forward, the next 7 games into a possible playoff berth, well, then he's not going to be a starter in the league.
I would agree.
Because it's laid out there for him right now, okay? And they need him to play quarterback right now. So this is not a situation where it's a luxury. No. Again, this is a necessity at this point for this team. So if it's not going to happen now, it's never going to happen.
You're right, and all he has to do is get on the field.
Right.
Get healthy and get on the field. Otherwise, this opportunity that you've been waiting on is going to be slipping away and go by the wayside.
And he's got to be running Taysom. He's got to be the guy that's a playmaker. He can't be trying to, again, be the second coming of Drew Brees, a pocket passer. We didn't know that early, and all of us questioned it. Can he be a pocket passer? And then now he's proven, yes, he can throw from the pocket. But right now, in today's NFL, when you have a guy with those type of attributes, you got to utilize, again, the ability to be able to run the football.
Yeah, and it means that Sean Payton may have to change the way he calls games. Well, his play calling a little bit. It can't be, just handing the ball off to Mark Ingram or Alvin Kamara. You got to look at Taysom, put him in the wildcat, put him in the shotgun, see what he can do, throw the ball down the field, get him out of the pocket, get him on the roll. So it's a good problem to have, knowing you've got a quarterback that can be effective. But again, when is he going to get on the field? Is he going to play this Thursday night? We sure hope so.
Right. Let's talk about the revolving door of kickers.
Do we have to? Jeez. I mean,
you played soccer in college.
I can kick an extra point.
Can you kick an extra point for him?
I can kick an extra point, yes. I'm not sure about under the pressure of an NFL game,
right.
knowing that if I screw it up, Sean Payton's going to give me the hook. Over the years, we've talked about how much Sean Payton just loves kickers. Loves them.
Right.
And so you can only imagine what's going through his head as they miss another extra point. You're just like, Jesus, can we just make the easiest kick first?
I mean, look, At this point, I mean, the extra point, I mean, that's, if you can't make an extra point in the NFL, you got issues. And of course, not having Taysom, the ability to be able to run a 2-point conversion to just abandon it, who knows? The question is, will there be another revolving doors of kickers this week out at Saints camp?
I don't think so. I think that Maher is going to be your guy. I mean,
think he'll get another chance?
Why not? Brian Johnson got some chances. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you know the one person that's really happy about this? Will Lutz.
Oh, you better believe it.
Because his contract price is going up, up, because we realize how valuable he is as a kicker. Almost sure-footed on every field goal he takes, and extra points are usually no problem at all. So you just hope he comes back and can get back on target like he was before he got hurt.
No doubt. This is a really, really tough, difficult stretch for the Saints. 3 games in 11 days. It's one of those situations where we just talked about, when you got injured players, maybe you're hedging your bets or maybe holding them out so that you can keep them for, again, the majority of those 3 games that are in 11 days. They've lost to Philadelphia now. They've got back-to-back Thursday night games against Buffalo and Dallas. This is as tough of a stretch as we'll see. And if they don't come out of this stretch with a winning record, making the playoffs is going to get much, much, much tougher.
It'll be much tougher, but you look at the NFC.
Right.
Everyone's right to log jam.
Right.
And so right now the Saints sit in the 7th playoff spot with a 5-5 record. I mean, they've lost 3 straight games. They're still in the playoff picture with a wild card. So I think this is an unusual NFL season in that you had injuries. Seattle losing Russell Wilson. They kind of bottomed out, but they're trying to come back. You know, Dak Prescott hasn't been what you thought he would be this year. And that Cowboys team, which is really good, have really struggled this year. The Rams, they're not running away with it. Arizona's not running. There's so much
parity,
yes. So much balance in the league, which is the one reason why the Saints are still in it. 7 games to play. There's a lot of football really left to play. That sounds so cliche-ish, and it is.
It's true.
But man, you win one of the next 2 games, you're still in the thick of things. You're only 2 games back at Tampa Bay, who have not played great. They won last night, but they lost 2 before that in a row. I just think there's so much football left to play, but you have to start winning games. And regardless if it's Buffalo and Dallas and whoever's else after that, it's a tough stretch in general because they're not winning right now. And the way they're losing games, it could be playing in the Falcons again, and they're going to lose that game because their recipe for success, it's not working.
One of the biggest moves within the season happened, and I think a lot of people just kind of looked at it on the radar. First of all, it was a genius move on how they worked out the deal to be able to bring Mark Ingram in. And in terms of, again, reworking his deal with the Houston Texans, changing again his contract to a signing bonus that allowed the Saints to be able to absorb some of that money. They absorbed some, a 7th-round pick in 2 years from now, and all of a sudden now he's your bell cow. They do the same thing with Roby here now, who is now splitting time with Debo, and both again with the Houston Texans in terms of in season team with not a lot of cap, bringing in 2 critical players on both sides of the ball.
Well, you know, in Ingram, it was a no-brainer, and it was really surprising because he was an active player.
He was their starter.
He was their guy. And Houston recognized a chance to save some money here. We're in a total rebuild mode to make this player happy. Let's let him go there. You know, it worked out. It just happened to work out for the Saints. And, you know, when it's all began back at the beginning of the year, Latavius Murray was your backup. And a very solid one. You let him go because Tony Jones Jr. has a good preseason. All of a sudden he gets hurt, as is par for the course of this team. And you're scrambling at the backup running back. Then Alvin Kamara, his load is too heavy. He ends up getting hurt on the knee. You don't know when he's coming back. And so Mark Ingram just had to be the right place at the right time. His availability was surprising to everyone. And I know you could just listen to him and tell he's very excited and happy to be back here. And he's playing at a level that, as an 11-year pro,
come on,
you don't see this.
You don't.
You don't see this.
I was expecting a drop-off. I mean, I've seen some of the games in Baltimore. I've seen a couple games again when he was at Houston, but not that I could see it. I sat in front of the TV and watched the Houston Texans. But again, he has come back and has not missed a beat. Catching the football, to running the football, blocking, his leadership within the locker room, just a great move on.
And you know, the fumble he had, Eric, he's not a fumbler. He's a guy that is
he was early in his career.
He was. But he's a guy that's been secure with the football. So I think that's a one-off as well. I think Mark Ingram's been fantastic. He's been everything they could have asked for in a running back. He was their real only weapon against Philadelphia.
All right, here's the toughest question of our block so far. All right, this team has lost 3 games in a row. They're 5-5.
Yes, Gillikin is the MVP. Is that what you're
No, we knew that already. But is this a playoff team? I mean, again, I thought, look, I didn't come into this season with championship aspirations, obviously. But I felt the talent on this team was good enough to get to the playoffs. Now, they needed a few breaks and not getting injured, and they've been injured. But again, can they rebound here? There's 7 spots in the playoffs this year. Can they make the playoffs?
I'd like to say yes because there's 7 spots available and it's such much parity right now. But I'm sticking by my guns from the beginning of the year. I said 7 and 10 because I did not have faith and belief in the quarterback position. There was too much unknown. And then you don't know if Michael Thomas, this is back at the beginning of the year, if Michael Thomas is going to be available. If he's not playing, what else do you have to prove you can be a winner outside of Alvin Kamara? You can't throw screen passes all day because teams are going to play. They're going to pinch up on the line. So I still say 7 and 10. I don't think they make the playoffs this year. I just think they're just not good enough.
Biggest criticism I have of the front office is again, the last 3 drafts have been great wide receiver drafts. The Saints knew that Michael Thomas didn't have the surgery before the draft, and they still didn't put a high pick on a wide receiver. And a lot of those guys were either in our own backyard at LSU or at Tulane. You've seen, again, wide receivers that came from Louisiana. They were at Alabama and other places. I'm not talking about just the hometown. I'm talking about the wide receiver crop as a whole of the last 3 seasons in the draft. You're seeing those guys really show out now in the NFL. The Saints got a 7th-round pick out of South Alabama this year who's on their practice squad. And that to me, was the biggest mistake they made going into the season, not upgrading that wide receiver position.
I would have liked to, and I said this before the draft, I would have liked to see them grab a quarterback in the first round. If there was ever a year where it's time to grab one, this would have been the year because it really is a transition year.
Yes.
You hope to make the playoffs, but you don't have Drew Brees, and you don't know what your team is going to look like. So go ahead and get that next quarterback in, let him play behind Jameis and Taysom, and groom him. And I know I love the kid from Alabama, but he was going to Patriots. But they didn't make that move. And I've realized over the last 4 or 5 years, the players that we all in the media think they're going to get, as far as positional-wise, they don't. Because Sean Payton and Mickey always say we go with the best player that's on our board. And a lot of times that best player has been an offensive lineman. And I can't argue with that because it's hard to find good offensive linemen. And traditionally they've been really good on the offensive line.
They build inside out.
But they need specialty players. They need receivers. And they need new tight ends as well.
They could live with Drew Brees, with guys that were undrafted free agent or late round picks because Drew Brees was so great. I don't know if they can do that with the quarterbacks they have now or maybe future quarterbacks. We'll see how it goes. The problem is this year, Juan, if they're looking at the quarterback position, they're looking at a bona fide NFL starter and making a trade or free agency because the crop coming out this year is not that good in the draft.
It depends on, Sean and Mickey always say we're always in win-now mode. So if they are in that win-now mode, then you're looking at free agency. You're not looking to – I don't think Sean Payton really has the patience to go out and get a first-round draft pick of the quarterback and spend 2 or 3 years grooming him to get him up to where he wants him to be, and there's no guarantees it's going to happen. So I think if they're going to address the quarterback position, it's going to be during free agency. And, if Russell Wilson's out there, or trade. If Russell Wilson's out there, then – what do you do? We'll give up Michael Thomas for him? I sure would.
But what about, before we wrap up the block, what about Jameis Winston? You think he's coming back?
I think you get it back at a cheaper price, for sure.
Another prove-it-to-me contract.
Absolutely, because he's got the injury now. And so you hope he's ready to go. He should be right by next spring, fall training and training camp. But, you take a flyer on Jameis and give him an opportunity because he was really coming into his own before he got the injury. I really just felt bad for him. You could just see it in his face, like, man, I put in all this work. I took a step back. To me, that shows maturity.
He humbled himself.
Realized I need to take a step back from being the guy, learn from 2 guys, and Breeze and Peyton that have done it, been there, done that, won a championship, learn from them for a year, and then get my opportunity. And then this happens. I just really felt for him.
And I thought the light was coming on for him. I thought he was really figuring it out.
You could see the growth in this offense.
No doubt.
He was starting to figure it out, and the offense was starting to play around him too.
And this is a different team if he's still around.
Absolutely.
This is a total different team.
Absolutely. I mean, they're better. I still don't think they're a playoff team, but I think they're a better football team because you have certainty at the quarterback position, a guy that can make all the throws. And you're not worried about it getting there on time. He may overthrow the guy, but he's not going to underthrow him and get it cut off.
And again, he took care of the turnover problem, which was the biggest.
But, man, he scared me every time he ran it. When he's, like, hopping in the pocket, oh, man, it scared me to death. But, yeah. He was good holding on to the ball.
Juan Kincaid, sports director at Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We come back. LSU, Tulane, Pelicans all on tap. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guest tonight is Juan Kincaid, Sports Director at Fox 8 Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We turn our attention to LSU, 5-6, 2-5 in the SEC. They beat UL Monroe 27-14. Really nothing to write home about. Yeah. Okay, I mean that's that's one of those games where, again, with all due respect to UL Monroe, the score gets run up. But it is what it is. First thing, again, before we get into that, looks like there's another departure from the team. Yeah. Eli Ricks is into the transfer portal. Again, 5-star out of California, a guy that was recruited by Ed Ogeron. He started going to camps with Ed Ogeron back when Ogeron was at USC. There's been obviously a relationship between Ogeron and the family. He has decided to enter the transfer portal. Stingley, again, maybe going pro this year. So all of a sudden, again, your two top corners are probably gone. Be interesting to see, again, as we get now, the season starts to wind down, how many other players will enter the transfer portal from LSU?
Well, it will be interesting to see because, listen, I've been an Ed Ogeron fan for a long, long time. I think he's a guy you want to run through the wall with and he's done a really good job recruiting everywhere he's been, especially at LSU. And so when you have a coaching change like it is now, and you've known about it for a while, the players he brought in that are going to be back next year, they have to reevaluate. Look, I came to play for him.
Right.
He's not going to be here. I don't know who the next coach is going to be. So it's a question I think a lot of their 4- and 5-star recruits will have for next year. Right. Do I want to stay here and stick it out and try to win under the next coach, whoever it may be, or do I need to look out for myself, which is what a lot of players are doing now, hopping in that transfer portal from Miles Brennan to Eli Ricks. I mean, I think there will be some other guys jumping in there. It just depends on how quickly LSU can get this head coaching job nailed down as far as the next person coming in.
That's what I was going to ask you. Why wouldn't a player, again, at least wait and see who's coming in unless they feel like, again, they want to go to a certain school?
Well, maybe a certain school that was recruiting him originally,
right? That's what
that they chose LSU over, or maybe the coach that's coming in doesn't have the style of offense.
Right. But they don't know who that coach is.
You don't know who it is, but you're taking a chance by waiting and seeing.
Right.
I think players jump into the portal early to be picked up early because that portal's full of players, and so. It all depends on who LSU decides to bring in here, what their coaching philosophy is, what their coaching style is.
True.
Offense, they're bringing a whole new coaching staff, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. What's their style? What do they want to do? Does it match what LSU has on the roster now? You know, some new players are going to be coming in. Right. Probably some of the guys that coach recruited to his school where he is now. Question. That's going to be interesting to see. Maybe the quarterback as well.
Corey Raymond, Kevin Falk, and I'm trying to think of the third recruiter that's there. But those are three guys that a lot of people feel that they're going to be retained because of their recruiting prowess. It'd be interesting to see. Again, Corey Raymond is in charge of the defensive backs. Maybe is there an inkling out there that maybe he's going elsewhere? Is that why Eli Ricks is going to the transfer portal? Those guys have been such great recruiters for this team that, again, I would think the next Mickey Joseph was the other coach. Thank you, back in the booth back there. But the question I have is, again, can they hold the line on these players? Because, again, those were the main recruiters. And I think that they would be foolish to allow those three to go elsewhere and not keep them here at LSU.
Well, if they're going to stay here, they're going to need a pay raise, first off, and maybe an upgrade in their other skill position coaching duties, because those are guys that anybody in the SEC would love to have. Alabama would love to have them, or they're pulling out players from Louisiana.
Are you kidding me?
And so any coach that comes here, if they don't have ties to Louisiana, like Lincoln Riley or whoever else comes from outside the state, then you've got that challenge of trying to go into mom and dad's house and talk to that Louisiana kid and say, look, this is how I'm going to do things. I want you to come play for me. Having familiarity in the recruiting class, having familiarity in the coaching staff does the recruiting.
And trying to hold on to this recruiting
hold on to what you have now, extremely important. So I could see all those guys retaining their jobs, but getting pay raises and maybe a change in job status.
Right. Again, I think they've done it the last couple times where, again, they've given them a title, they've given them raises, etc. And I think they'll do that to try to hold on to them as well. You say you're a big fan of Coach Ed Orgeron. He just got his 50th win as an LSU head coach. What happened? How did we get here?
I think, it's twofold. All the things that happen off the field, not good. For a university that's had its share of off-the-field problems in a number of sports, not just football. Think about Will Wade in basketball as well. I think the other thing is, when Les Miles was at LSU, his biggest downfall was when he started messing around with his coordinators, trying to do their jobs. When I want my head coach at a major university to be the face of my school, go kiss some babies, shake some hands, hug some parents, whatever. That's what I want you to be. Leave the coaching to your assistant coaches, to your coordinators. Ed Orgeron had success in 2019 because he allowed his coordinators to do their job, and he stepped back out of the way because he knew he could trust those guys. Where he went wrong was after 2019, having to change the defensive coordinator, striking out on that one. Offensive coordinator, new defense coordinator, not so great right now. You got two young guys in there now because you wanted to get younger at the position to kind of be more relatable to your players, and I get that, but you have to have the right hire, and neither one of these guys, I don't believe, ready for the SEC, ready for this level of a job at any university. So
but he was in a tough spot because, again,
of course he was.
He was a coach on the hot seat. Coming off again a bad season,
which makes it hard to hire someone big time because they're like, if you're gone, I'm gone.
Freeman. Freeman was a guy that everybody thought was coming to LSU. It was slam dunk. And I said from the beginning, he's not coming because he's got his pick of whatever job he wants, and ultimately he's not coming for a possibility of again a one-off, 1 year, and then he's out looking for the job again. So again, he had to settle for those guys ultimately, and again that was part of the demise. They got a shot here. Again, they got Texas A&M this weekend. If they win, they go to the bowl game.
Is that your homerism talking?
No. I'm just saying they got a shot.
I need you to sell me on this one.
Do I think they're going to beat them? No. They got a shot. Only thing I'm saying is that a lot of LSU fans would like to be able to see the season end. I look at it as it's 2 years in a row now this team won't be going to a bowl game, okay? And that's two years in a row for those kids. They don't get an opportunity to go to a bowl game. Last year, again, they self-imposed the sanction on themselves, staying out of the bowl game, trying to get ahead of, again, possible NCAA sanctions. This year, it'll be, again, a lame duck coach. Are they going to go if they ultimately beat Texas A&M? If they beat Texas A&M, should they go to a bowl game?
Absolutely, because it's about the players. The players didn't mess up. The coaching staff, 100%. The head coach messed up here. He is at fault here for his actions on and off the field and how he's handled things. That's his fault. The players have run through the wall for him. They've lacked talent in certain areas. They're not very good at quarterback, and it's taken them a while to admit that. They've struggled along the offensive line when you thought that was going to be your strength. The defense has played a lot better.
Much better.
A lot better down the stretch here.
They changed the scheme and they're playing much better.
They've been more aggressive.
They're blitzing.
Exactly. So I'm not going to blame the players for the head coach's failures at this university. If anything, you praise the players and you give them an opportunity to play one extra game, especially those seniors. Agree. Those seniors need the bowl game, need the experience of going to a bowl game.
All those guys need the opportunity to have that bowl, go to a bowl game and be wined and dined, much like, again, you are at a bowl game. The other part of it is the extra 2 weeks of practice, and that's where, again, the rubber hits the road here. Normally, that's fantastic, again, for the following year, but you had a lame duck coaching staff. So again, there's what happens there as far as that goes. To me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm Scott Woodward, I'm accepting the invitation. I go to the bowl game because of my players.
Well, you go because of your players. And I've heard people say the extra 2 weeks of practice means something for the next year. I disagree. Because there's 4 months in between where you're not doing anything, and you come back to spring ball and you get revved back up again. What they did back in December for 2 extra weeks, that's gone out of the mind because they've had a break to relax and rest and recuperate for the spring season coming up next year. So I don't know if I agree with people that have said, and not just you saying that, I've heard people say before that, this 2 weeks is great. No, I don't think so, because there's so much gap in between the next time you're going to play football again.
Younger players get an opportunity to get more reps.
Well, they get more reps, but again, after that bowl game, there's a 4-month break.
Sure.
The only thing they're doing together is getting into the weight room. That's it.
And also working together.
Yeah, probably doing some off the field work together with each other. Yeah. So But I agree with you. The bowl game is important because it's a reward.
Yes, it is.
The players that have gone out there, blood, sweat, and tears, put themselves on the line every week for this program. And when you're talking about a team that's trying to get to 500, you need something positive to end the year on.
Doubt.
And make it into a bowl game is one thing, winning one's another. Have a trophy.
This weekend, going to be difficult. I think I can see Jimbo Fisher running up the score if he gets a chance.
Absolutely. And why wouldn't you? Because he's trying to get to a better bowl game as well. He wants to end on a high. He wants to show LSU what they're not going to get in a next head coach. A&M's the better team, but Alabama was the better team between them and LSU as well, and LSU took them down to the wire. If LSU continues to play like they've been playing, minus the ULM game, where look, they could have walked with one eye closed and won that football game because they're just a better football team overall. Then they'll give A&M a game. I think A&M wins the game and keeps LSU out of a bowl game. But you know what? It's the last game in Tiger Stadium. They know what's on the line, know what they're playing for. They're playing for their head coach, maybe his last game as LSU's coach. You never know what the emotions are going to bring.
Now let's talk about the coaching search. A lot of people believe it's going to be Lincoln Riley, but again, there's nothing nothing out there to say that's definitely who it's going to be. We're hearing Dave Aranda's name now more. Billy Napier now has become, again, a guy that's kind of maybe moved up in the pecking order, especially now with, again, with Mullen getting fired at Florida and the set interest in Napier by the Florida Gators. That's piquing a lot of interest of maybe some LSU fans who would have taken a coach from the University of Louisiana, but now saying, wait a minute, if Florida's looking at him, maybe we should be looking at him as well. First of all, do you think this will be settled by next week? Okay, in terms of, again, because they have to get it done quickly because of recruiting. And then the other thing is, who do you believe is in the top 3 bullpen here?
Oh man, I don't know who's in the top 3, Eric. I really don't know, but I feel like this is like it's been a back and forth. Jimbo Fisher, yes, no, probably not. Lincoln Riley, yes, no, who knows? I'm hearing my friends out in Oklahoma telling me that he's going to be staying there. He's not coming here. It's a great opportunity to come here, but I think he's got a good opportunity at OU. Billy Napier, I've never been on the Billy Napier bandwagon. I think he's a great coach, but I've always been under the belief that I think he needs another step in a program to go to maybe the Big 10, the Big 12, or a bigger program, have that pressure of 65,000 fans coaching and winning in that situation, like Dave Aranda did, going to Baylor, winning there after his second season. I like Dave Aranda as defensive coordinator. I don't know how he is as a head coach. He's having success in his second year as Baylor's head football coach. That's not a major program. It's in a major conference, but he's still winning football games against major opposition. Would he do well at LSU? I don't know. I think he will be the same situation, but a little bit different than Ed Ogeron in that if he comes here, you know he's going to want to coach the defense. But is he going to still hire a defensive coordinator and let that guy do his job? Is he going to be able to step back and be hands off and let his coordinators do their job? For me, at LSU, the next head coach needs to be that guy that's the face of the program and allows his assistant coaches, his coordinators, to do their job, and he has to make the right hires at that position. So if I had to pick between Dave Aranda and Billy Napier, I would probably say Aranda because he's done it on a higher level. But man, Napier's done it longer on the level he's at. Again, it's secondary competition. It's not playing LSU and Mississippi and Alabama every year, but he's still winning 10-1 this year. He's still winning a lot of football games there. And you know, when you're a winner, it can translate anywhere. And plus, he knows the recruiting ground.
That's right. And again, look, he's got good pedigree. Coached at Clemson, coached at Alabama. He's coached with some really good coaches.
He's been the assistant coach there down the line, so he hasn't had the pressure of having to make the final call on everything.
Some really good coaches.
But he's been under some guys, and everyone has been under someone great.
Yep, no doubt. Let's talk about Tulane. 2-9, 1-6 in the conference. They got off the 8-game losing streak, beating South Florida 45-14. Look, I'm glad to see Tulane play like we expected them to play, but it is what it is at this point with just one more game left on the schedule against Memphis. I'd like to see them again go out winners, but there's a bigger black cloud on the horizon right now, Juan. And again, there's a situation right now where Nico Marley, former linebacker for the Green Wave, put this out on social media last Thursday night that the Board of Supervisors behind the scenes raised the academic standards for athletes across the board at Tulane. By doing that, again, it's a setback to all the forward moves that they've made at Tulane since Katrina, when the University College closed, and where athletes were going to University College to be able to be eligible for athletics. They have since changed the athletic structure, the academic structure, to allow athletes to be able to, again, take classes that will still get them a Tulane degree and still be able to have them eligible. It looks like they've ruled that back there. Again, they've done that, again, behind the scenes now, and this could really hurt the Tulane program across the board in every single sport going forward, because some of the athletes they're able to be able to recruit are not going to be able to make the new standards.
Yeah, and when you're telling me, we were talking about this before the show, it made me think back to the early 2000s under Chris Selfo.
Yes.
And one of his biggest complaints was, I can't get the quality of Louisiana players in here because the academic standards are so high. And I also can't bring any transfers in because the academic standards are too high.
Right.
And so they struggled.
No doubt.
And in Conference USA, they struggled. And Curtis Johnson dealt with some of the same things, but it was lightened a little bit. As they've gotten to Willie Fritz, they've gotten better players than under Willie Fritz.
Right.
And man, if they do this, it's I don't want to say it's a slap in the face, because you see Tulane for what they are. It is a university situated in Louisiana, in New Orleans, but they cater to the Northeast dollar.
They do. And
the Northeast dollar brings in higher academics and higher expectations, and that sounds like what they want to get back to once again. You know, remember they had the trying to get Tulane to go to Division III back in the day and all that, and I don't want to say it's going to get back to that again, because I think Tulane wants to be a successful athletic program, but at that school, as it should be at every school, academics are number one. But you want to have the athletic department balance things off a little bit.
No doubt about that.
And also, you want to be able to cater a little bit to your local athletes and your local students. Right. There are good students here, but if they're going to get pushed out because someone from the Northeast or someplace else outside Louisiana gets that opportunity before them, then it's unfortunate.
And it is unfortunate because, again, with the American splitting off now, with 3 of the major programs going over to the Big 12, them absorbing Coosa schools, this was going to be an opportunity for Tulane to win championships. Now, they were going to be able to compete in the American, again, minus the big schools with, again, the lesser talented Coosa programs coming in. This would be something, I've been talking about it for weeks now. Tulane fans are upset about this because they're not going into a big conference, because the conference is maybe being watered down a bit, but that helps them in terms of, again, winning seasons and championships, which they haven't seen consistently since maybe the 30s or 40s, right? So now, if you're going to roll back the academic standards or roll them up and make it more difficult for student athletes, especially from Louisiana and New Orleans, and especially, again, African-American athletes to make it into Tulane, well, again, you're basically crushing your programs across the board. Basketball, football, women's basketball. You go right down the line, that's going to affect them.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the thinking of your coaching staff as well.
No doubt.
I mean, they've got a new coach.
How can you hold on to Ron Hunter?
Ron Hunter's there. He seems like he's got the basketball program turned around a little bit. They're playing with more confidence. They're a better basketball team than last year. We'll see how they do over the long haul. Lisa Stockton, her team plays at LSU on Tuesday, and they're undefeated right now. Right. I mean, you're seeing some positive things in your programs. Baseball, we're still waiting on that. But this would have a negative effect on the athletes from this Louisiana, this area coming into Tulane and giving a positive impact. Listen, the student athletes here in New Orleans, they're good students. They are. They're not just getting into Tulane because they're getting a helping hand. Right. When they get in there, like, I wasn't the greatest high school student coming out, but I thrived in college. AB student in college. That's what's happening here with these kids from New Orleans and the surrounding parishes getting into Tulane, and they're thriving. they're learning on a different level. And so I think by you raising the standards, you will end up losing that player.
There's no doubt.
That academic.
That player's going somewhere else. That player's going to UL now.
Yeah, going someplace else. So now, having said all that, if you're losing the best players that you've been getting right now and going to a second-tier player, but you're going into a second-tier conference now because what's coming in, then maybe it balances itself out. We'll see.
We'll see. Let's talk a little bit about the Pels. 3-16 now. They are a mess. Look, I'm going to be honest with you at this point. I don't know if Zion is the panacea that can fix this at this point, because again, they have gotten themselves in such a hole. Now you see Willie Green now again experimenting. Naw's on the bench. Jackson Hayes is on the bench. He's bringing Herman Gomez. So there's
Satoransky, who needs to go to the G League. He is absolutely brutal.
There's no rhyme or reason what's going on with this team. He's trying to find
a spark.
He's trying to find something at this point. But the fact is, it is talent and the fact that this team is built around one player, and that player's not there.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, as simple as it can be. It really is. And you know, we're going to find out on Wednesday if he's able to go to 5-on-5 play. And if he is, after that, he's going to be getting ready to play a basketball game. Here we are in November. So maybe by the end of November, maybe first week in December, may see him by then. At the end of the day, Eric, you're looking at that number 10 spot of the playoffs.
That's all you can look for.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that, too.
Okay with that. But, you know, the whole thinking is get Zion back, him, Jonas, Brandon Ingram, and whoever's in your backcourt. Get those 5 guys together. Let's see. Once you get everybody healthy again, let's see how they can do. Let's make a little bit of a climb. Willie Green, I think, has done a fantastic job with what he has to work with. You know,
this is not on Willie Green at all.
Absolutely not. It's not. It's
not at all.
And you know, not having Zion is frustrating.
Right.
It was really frustrating.
It really is.
But the method of which we found out they weren't going to have Zion is the most frustrating thing of all.
It has damaged the credibility of the organization.
Absolutely. And there's nothing that's going to get that back, because you're not going to trust them.
Nobody does.
Anything they say anymore.
The fan doesn't. The fan doesn't trust them. The media doesn't trust them at this point. They have no cachet, no trust within the city and the fan base. And you know, again, Peyton might be able to get away with that, but Peyton's got a Super Bowl trophy. Okay, they don't have the cachet that Peyton has to be able to get away with that kind of stuff.
No, and I don't know how much input Mrs. Benson has been having with this basketball team behind closed doors. Not the team, but I mean the front office staff. You know, David Griffin. But I look back on his career. He won a championship in Cleveland. Who did he have? LeBron James.
Well, they changed directions.
Absolutely.
Remember, he was going the youth movement. LeBron came in, and all of a sudden they said, wait a minute, we need to go all veterans.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't his direction, it was LeBron's direction.
So with David Griffin coming here, the only thing he's done for me so far is collect draft picks, get Zion Williamson, and talk out of the side of his head.
Right.
And not give him the truth.
The Zion thing was, again, he hit the Powerball.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly did. But I'm telling you, Eric, I feel like we are on part 3 of losing our 3rd franchise player.
Right.
He's gone.
No,
He's gone after 2 years.
I agree, but again, also, as opposed to the last 2, he hasn't done enough to prove, again, the type of player he is. In other words, he's been often injured, out of shape. When he's on the court, he's played well. He hasn't put the skins on the wall that Chris Paul, Anthony Davis.
He hasn't, but I disagree with you. I think he has shown me enough to say that this guy can be special. I mean, he can't be stopped down low. And like every young player that comes into the league, they have something they have to work on.
Absolutely.
With him, he has to work on that elbow jumper.
Right, but has he?
Well, we don't know that. We're going to find out.
That's right.
I'm guessing he hasn't worked on as much as we want him to, but he's only, 3 years into the league now?
Yeah.
He's a guy that has all the tools inside the paint, cannot be stopped. He's 6'7", 6'6".
Right. No, I agree.
He has to develop a jumper, and once he gets that, he will be unstoppable. So for me, he has shown me enough to say, you know what, he could be a superstar in this league, but man, I'm worried about his health, his weight.
Yes.
He needs a 24/7 dietitian walking next to him every day.
I agree. There's no doubt.
Especially in the off season.
I believe that he's got to expand his repertoire.
Absolutely.
We won't know that until we see him on the court.
But most young players do. They come in with one skill set, and he can be dominant down low. But man, teams are going to start collapsing on him. It's going to be a pass the ball better. I'm not a big fan of the point Zion every time.
No, me neither.
I don't want that.
We'll see how it goes. Juan, thanks as always. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you, brother. Same to you.
Juan Kincaid, Sports Director at Fox 8 Sports. Thanks so much. Remember, there's plenty of ways to catch our program. program tonight, 6 o'clock on WLAE-TV. Also, again, on The Deuce at 10 o'clock. Then at 9 o'clock on Pelican Sports Television on Friday, 10 o'clock on WLAE. Saturday morning at 2 a.m. on The Deuce. Pelican Sports Television every Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, always on our social media platforms. At Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. You catch me on the radio 4 to 6, 106.1 FM. That's weekdays. So again, check out the radio show. The Anchor app is where you catch our podcast. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, great ways to catch the show. Take it with you anywhere. And of course at ericasher.com. Also want to thank our underwriters who make this show possible. Please continue to support our great underwriters. And of course, all those here at WLAE-TV that are going to do a fantastic job in producing our program. That includes Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Will Ingram, Alex Chacon, and my director, William Hill. For Juan Kincaid, I'm Eric Asher. Happy Thanksgiving to one and all. We'll see you back next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Throughout their lives, our dogs and cats may require support for their specific health needs. Mobility, digestive, skin and coat, weight control. Introducing True Solutions from Blue Buffalo, the leader in natural nutrition. True Solutions is made with both clinically proven and natural ingredients. True Solutions. Support it in-store or online at your favorite pet specialty retailer.
Happy Thanksgiving from all of us at WLAE, New Orleans Public Television. WLAE gives thanks for our member support, which enables us to create award-winning programs like Fats Domino, Walkin' Back to New Orleans, a tribute to Toussaint, Glory Days, the Catholic League of New Orleans, Leah Chase, the Queen of Creole Cuisine, and our newest documentary, Irma Thomas, the Soul Queen of New Orleans, premiering this Thanksgiving Sunday, November 28th at 7 o'clock p.m., with a replay at 9 p.m. Check your listings for encore dates and visit